So it turns out that glass air fryers are a bit like buses. You wait ages for one and then suddenly there are loads of them all at the same time. Lidl have just released this £59 model, and they haven't simply copied the Ninja Crispy, they've completely reworked the design. And while some of these changes look like improvements, after testing the Ninja Crispy and the Lidl side by side, I've discovered that Lidl may actually have taken some of Ninja's design flaws and made them worse. So a quick bit of background, the Crispy was designed basically to do two things: to be portable and to be free from forever chemicals. And it feels like Lidl just did not get that memo, because what they've done with their glass air fryer is create a massive bloated appliance which delivers no significant extra cooking space. The reason it's so big is that the glass cooking bowls sit inside this huge plastic outer bowl, which makes the base of the Lidl enormous. And because the heating element has to span the width of the outer bowl, the top section is huge too, which, as you'll see in a moment, creates its own problems. And there's another consequence of the design choices with the glass bowl air fryer. With the Ninja, you can remove the heat pod, put the small bowl inside the large one and stick everything together, which is one of the things that makes it genuinely portable. With the Lidl, you can't do that. But how does it cook? My first cooking test was homemade fries to see how well this air fryer crisps. Both models have the same 4 cooking settings with virtually identical names, but on the Lidl you can adjust the cooking temperature between 60 and 200 Celsius. For these fries, I chose air fry and selected 200 Celsius on the Lidl. Now halfway through, I wanted to add a bit of oil to help crisp up the fries, and that involved lifting the heat pod to access the food, which is where I ran into the first big design flaw with the Lidl, and simultaneously learned something about myself that I've been blissfully unaware of for the last 4 decades. I can lift the Ninja heat pod with one hand, but with the Lidl, I couldn't actually get a secure grip with one hand. It's just too wide. So I had to lift it with both. And then when I wanted to close it again, I had to reach round the back of the machine and release a latch while effectively putting my arm underneath the grill. At the end of the cooking time, I again instinctively tried to lift the Lidl with one hand whilst holding the camera in the other. I literally can't open this thing without 2 hands. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So when my husband came home, I asked him to try lifting the Lidl heat pod. Now, of course, he's got bigger hands. He could do it with absolutely no problem. So I got the tape measure out to prove to him that the Lidl clearly wasn't designed for the average woman's hand. And that's when I discovered something quite devastating. I don't actually have average size hands. I in fact have very undersized hands. So I think this is probably going to spark a little bit of debate. You can find the source for average hand sizes for men and women linked in the description and see where you fit on the scale and whether you would be able to lift the Lidl heat pod. Do let me know how freakishly small my hands are in the comments. And on a serious note, I do think there is a genuine usability issue with the Lidl. Even if you have larger hands than me, the heat pod is substantially wider and heavier to handle than on the Ninja. Now, talking of spans, the width of the large bowls for both the Ninja and the Lidl is 22 centimetres, which is big enough to cook a small pizza in. These ones were frozen and both air fryers did a pretty good job defrosting and then cooking both in just 7 minutes. They were both evenly browned and crisp around the edges, and this is actually something that I found throughout the testing. The Lidl isn't bad at cooking. In some tests it's actually very good. The problem is just everything else. So rapid strong heat worked well for both the pizzas and the fries, but the next test was intended to show how it fared with cooler temperatures baking with a batch of homemade oatmeal and raisin cookie dough. The way we like these cookies is so they fall apart when you divide them rather than being dry and snapping in half. And that means you have to catch them before they overcook. And air fryers can be particularly unforgiving. I chose to use baking paper for this test because I didn't have faith that the cookies wouldn't stick on the little crisper plates, and there's a reason for that. They do have a non-stick coating, which is manufactured by the same company that produced the crisper plates for Lidl's dual drawer air fryer, and those were fine, but the ones for the glass bowl air fryer don't appear to be PFAS free, and the coating feels very different, much cheaper, with a rough, almost sandpaper-like finish. Whilst the cookies were baking, I used my thermal camera to see if the larger plastic outer bowl on the Lidl helps to keep the outside of the air fryer cooler. And to give credit where it's due, that is exactly what it does. And the difference between the Ninja and the Lidl was really apparent. After 12 minutes on roast with the Lidl set to 180, this is what the two batches of cookies looked like. Both produced good results that pulled apart as we wanted, although the Ninjas were slightly browner. So far, despite the design problems, the Lidl model hasn't had any issues with cooking. But what about noise levels? I thought the outer bowl might actually insulate the sound of the Lidl, but I was wrong. It was about 10 dB louder than the Ninja. Between food tests, I needed to wash up the bowls, and this is one area where Lidl genuinely has an advantage. The glass bowls themselves are easier to clean than Ninja's because the Ninja has a rigid plastic frame permanently attached around the outside of the bowls. But Lidl has managed to introduce a different problem. The large bowl has these permanently attached plastic handles, which are fine. But the small bowl sits inside a removable plastic cradle. And the plastic is surprisingly flexible. If you pick up the bowl with one hand, the frame actually peels away from the glass, leaving the bowl attached at just one point. And so, despite the fact that they are trickier to wash and get dry, I'd actually rather have the Ninja bowls because they feel sturdier. Next, I wanted to see whether either machine could do something that I think is more useful than cooking individual snacks. Could it make a quick, healthy dinner? I tried cooking broccoli and salmon fillets, and amazingly, despite the fact that the fillets were slightly different sizes, the temperature probe for both had exactly the same reading at the end. The broccoli in the Lidl was slightly more well done, but both appliances produced a good, healthy meal. And that brings me to something which I wasn't sure about. Which one costs more to run? I didn't know which way this was going to go because the Lidl model seems to be browning things faster, but the Ninja Crispy has a famously powerful fan. In the end, the Lidl used slightly less power. Using it for 10 minutes on air fry would cost you 3p, or if you used it every day for a year, it would cost £11.63. So if you only care about whether this air fryer cooks food, yes, £59 is impressive, but if you actually have to live with it, I think Lidl has made the wrong compromises. They've taken a portable appliance and made it large and awkward to use. It takes up more worktop space and more vertical space because the lid has to tip back. And to be honest, everything about it feels a little bit cheap, and also you can't use it if you've got small hands. But don't despair, because if you want a budget glass bowl air fryer, I've actually found another option that fixes the things that both Lidl and Ninja have got wrong, and the video for that is linked in the description and appearing on screen as well at the moment. And finally, a big thank you to all of my channel members whose names are appearing on the screen right now.